Hey, I'm back and Happy New Year. I don't think I've seen you guys all year after I've taken a bit of a winter break, which was not really intentional and it's not something I've done before. So yeah, I'm back and I'm raring to go now, and I think it's time we head into the allotment, have a bit of a catch up on what I've been up to, have a look around. There's so many flowers in bloom and I just can't wait to get started now for the new growing season. Can you believe it? It's coming around pretty fast now. But yes, we've got lots of flowers in bloom, so I'll show you those, as well as a lot of hellebores. And yeah, just have a little catch up, shall we? It is an absolutely gorgeous day. And you know what is making me feel so good right now? Oh, I can't see you. Is all this bird song. We've got so many birds that are now singing their little hearts out, and it just fills my heart because, yeah, I took a short break because essentially the weather was just really, really bad. It had been so wet, so stormy. The ground still hasn't dried out. I feel like this is probably one of the wettest winters I've really known on my allotment. And it's just been making me so miserable, honestly. And, I couldn't shoot any content because it was either chucking it down with rain or the ground was just, you can't move on it. And it's just been making me so miserable that nobody really wants to see me be miserable on the allotment. So I just decided to have a little short hiatus, and the sun's out today. The ground is very slowly drying. It's still raining, loads. I've made a start on things. We'll have a little look round. But the biggest thing that I've done is my shed. You may remember that during December, we had a lot of storms and the roof of my shed, the felt, had blown off, and it has been off since the middle of December because we've not had decent weather to repair it. But it's now been refelted, and we've also had to replace a few bits of wood as well. So first of all, we put down some wooden OSB, I think it's called, sheet wood on the top, nailed that on, and then refelted it, which I'm making this process sound dead simple, but it took us weeks because of the weather and just DIY. It always takes longer than you think, doesn't it? So there it is. It's now got a nice new felt roof on it. We did use that sticky black stuff to stick it down with, and I've nailed it as well. Didn't quite realise how nasty that black sticky paint is. Oh my god, that was just awful to work with. But it's done, and it's been such a relief, such a weight off my mind, because it's all I can think about when we get this bad weather is my roof. And I'm like, all the stuff inside was starting to go mouldy and wet and soaking wet. I had a bucket in there that filled with water, and it's all dry now and I don't have to worry. So that's a huge weight off my mind. And now I can concentrate on getting this lot sorted because none of my beds are prepped for spring, and that's okay. My beds are the least of my concern because I'm not going to be planting into them until May. But my hedges are what I've been working on, and also my apple tree, which is mostly done. Just got a few more bits to prune off that were right at the top. I thought I'd spread it over 2 weeks because it's sometimes good to do that. If you haven't pruned your apple tree yet, I do have a video all about that with loads of tips. If you want to watch that, I will link it below. So what am I doing today? Well, I've got some shallots that I want to get started. I'm going to do a little bit more of my hedge trimming and just enjoy being here when it's not raining. Maybe tie my hair up, this is a bit out of control. So yeah, let's get cracking on something, eh? It's actually so mild today. Now, my hedges are probably equally one of my favourite things of my allotment, and also one of my most annoying things of my allotment, because it keeps my plot incredibly private and it brings so much wildlife, but also it's a right pain to cut. And we have to cut them all ourselves, and I can use a hedge trimmer in parts, but because a lot of it's also really thick bramble or there's hazel running through it, which can get quite tough and woody. I do also just have to do it by hand with my loppers, which takes time. And that's probably also another reason why I decided to take a short break from YouTube, because at the end of the day, creating content and planning videos, setting up the filming, setting up the shots, moving the camera, it all takes extra time, and it means you're not getting as many jobs done. And you know, I'm only here like for a few hours a week at the minute because of the daylight hours and because of my job. So I've just not had the time to do anything, and especially make videos with the weather. So it's just helped me to concentrate on getting them done. Because for me, you know, a lot of things can wait. A lot of things aren't that important, but my hedges, these got to get done because it's bird nesting season soon, start of March. But birds will be looking for places to nest now. And we need to make sure that we're not disturbing those nests when they're built. So we don't cut our hedges from March to July. Luckily my neighbours help by doing their side, which I can see they've actually made a start with, which is great. I've been thinking a lot lately about, you know, what do I want to achieve this year? What are my goals? What am I working towards? You know, last year it was all about the wedding and the wedding flowers. But this year, you know, it can be different. I haven't got that intense focus and pressure anymore, which I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed it and I learned so much. But, you know, it's good to get back to actually growing veg again. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to, is just getting back to, even if it's just the basics, you know, just growing your peas and growing things that I really love to eat for the purpose of eating it. You know, things in particular I missed, like my carrots, like my winter veg. I really missed this winter, you know, harvesting some fresh carrots or parsnips. So I'm really keen to just get back to the basics and trying to keep it simple and just do it for the sake of enjoying it. I think, you know, not putting pressure on myself. And I think that's something we can all easily kind of get on board with, because it's easy to get carried away with trends and growing things because you think it looks good, or because everybody else is growing it, or it's a limited edition seed or whatever. And then you end up buying so many seeds, don't you? Which isn't a bad thing. We all do it. But I just want to grow what I enjoy and do it well. Oh gosh, I'm getting a bit stuck. I think another thing that I'm really looking forward to this year is visiting more gardens, because I didn't really go to many last year and I want to visit them. Even if it's just like my local open gardens as part of the NGS, which is the National Garden Scheme. If you're in the UK and you're not familiar with that, I suggest you look it up, because people up and down the country can open their own back gardens, and it's a great way to get inspiration and just have a look around other people's gardens. So I want to do more of that and visit other places. You know, like a few years ago I went to Ashwood Nurseries, who specialise in hellebores. That was an amazing day out, really loved that. Not far from them is David Austin Roses, who I've not been to yet either, so I wouldn't mind going there for a visit. Ooh. But you know, even like Hidcote, I've not been to Hidcote Manor before. You know, all these really famous gardens and the RHS gardens I would like to go to. But we shall see. Have you got a favourite garden? Do let me know. At the minute, I think one of my favourites was Bodmin in Wales. The scale of that place was just incredible. What are your goals for this year? Let me know in the comments. I wonder what sort of weather we're going to have this year. Last summer was just really wet. I think we've had enough rain. Something else that I've been up to was potato day, and it was absolutely bonkers. So a lot of people ask me, where do I get my seed potatoes from every year? And I'm very lucky that my local horticultural group that I'm a part of, Nottingham Organic Gardeners, they host a potato day each year where they source lots of seed potatoes, over 30 varieties this year, and you can buy them at potato day. They're very cheap, and you get to, the best thing is the opportunity to buy lots of different varieties for very cheap. So you could buy 5 seed potatoes of different varieties, which you can't do normally, because if you go buy them online or from a shop, you have to buy like a whole kilogram or something of one variety, which isn't great when you want to try different things and find, you know, what grows well for you, what potatoes do you like eating. So yes, I went to potato day and it was the busiest year ever. Oh my gosh. I think because of the closure of Wilko's, it's caused a lot more demand, like locally, for that grow your own sort of supplies. And it was everyone queued up outside. It was the longest queue I'd seen for potato day. It went right round the building. I helped out as a volunteer, and as you'll later find out, I had a very busy day. And yeah, it was just a fantastic event. So I've already got my seed potatoes, which we'll go through probably in another video. But I've also bought some shallots, which I need to start, and I think I'm going to start them in cell trays before I plant them in the ground this year, which I might get round to today. Ah! Oh my God. Ouch. These are painful. Whew. Well, that hedge is looking so much better, and I know that as soon as my neighbours help out with the other side, it's going to be pretty much done. I might just need a little tidy on the top with some of the little strandy bits, but I can do that with the hedge trimmer now that all the really thick branches and then massive brambles are now out of the way. So that's one main job done. Still got quite a few hedges to tackle, but now I actually want to start off my shallots that I picked up on potato day. Let's go into the shed. Now then, shallots. I've got them in here along with my potatoes, but I don't need them today. And I got these from potato day, but I don't grow shallots every year, but we're starting to cook with them a lot more. And I'm terrible for some reason at growing onions. I haven't actually tried growing them from seed, which I know a lot of people swear by, rather than the sets. So I'm just gonna have a go at growing some shallots again, because they're really easy to do. They clump up and make beautiful clumps, and they're easy to know when they're ready for harvest because they flop down to the ground. And I'm just gonna have a go. Why not? Try something a bit different this year. Now what I've got here is actually a tub of used compost. This was from my potato pots last year. So it may not have too many nutrients in it, which is why I'm going to boost it up with a little bit of bloodfish and bone. And just mix that in. Now these shallots aren't going to spend all their life in this old compost. They will be going into the ground soon. But this is a method that I'll be using with cell trays, because it means they get a bit of a head start, and because my ground is currently still full of old crops or weeds or covered in things, then it just means they can start growing, and then when spring comes around I'll move them into the ground. So that's my cell tray all ready to go for my shallots. I don't actually remember which variety these are, but I'm sure I can find out by asking the guys. But because these are a bulb, they've got loads of stored energy in them, which is why they don't really need too many nutrients inside this compost to start them off. And they will start shooting in the spring. But as soon as it warms up and I've got my ground cleared in sort of mid-March, April time, that's when these will be going in the ground. So for now, all I'm doing is making sure that the pointy end is at the top and the flat end is on the bottom, and I'm just pushing them into the compost. They don't need to be buried, you don't need to cover them, just so that that basal plate where all the roots will come from is into the soil or the compost, and they'll be absolutely fine. That's a massive one. And I think one of the reasons that I've come into the shed to do this today is because I can actually get into the shed, and it's by no means perfect. There's still a lot of tidying up to do, but it just feels good to be in here, and I've got the view out there of the wildlife area, and you quite often see all the robins, the wrens and the dunnocks sort of fly around, and at this time of the year it's just particularly relaxing to watch. Are you growing any shallots or onions this year? Oh, it's good to be back. It's really good to be back. And as for the shallots now, I'll be moving them into my polytunnel where it's nice and bright. Water them if they look like they're drying out, but that would probably only be maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think it's going to be too hot over the next few weeks. And yeah, just keep an eye on them really. Now I think we're going to have a little look around the allotment just for some signs of spring, but it won't be too long because this was just meant to be a short video to warm me back up, get back into the swing of things, but I really want to show you my hellebores and the other flowers that are starting to appear. The hellebores in particular are bigger than they've ever been. They look incredible. Now it's not going to be a full-on plot tour today, but we're going to look at all the little flowers and signs of spring because they get me so excited. So first of all, we've got what's down in the front border up here. The primulas are here. Lovely little woodland plant. We've got it here in yellow. We've also got some mauvey lilac ones as well. I've also cleared back the wildlife pond. I know a lot of you tend to ask about this, but I honestly don't maintain it whatsoever really. But the best time to do so is in the autumn. I just cut back some of the foliage that was covering it over because I was worried a fox or something might fall in without seeing it. Otherwise it's a little bit messy around there, but I know that underneath I've got some miniature daffodils just coming up. And also all around my raised bed we've got this, which is vinca. It's an evergreen, fantastic ground cover, trails everywhere, but it flowers very early in the spring and on and off really, but they're starting to bloom as well, which the bees absolutely adore. But here you can see what's going on with the plot. So that big pile at the back is all the spiky things, all of the hawthorn and brambles that I've been pulling out of the hedges, and this is my compost pile. And here is where the dahlias still are underground. I did do a bit of a chop and drop with some things just to mulch them even further because it did reach -7 one night in the winter. And I've got some tulips coming up in this bucket. I don't know how well they'll do because they're a few years old now. Hopefully they'll still bloom. Hedges are looking so much better now. They've had a bit of a haircut, just need a bit more work on the other side. And what have we got down here? Some crocus. Looking a little bit battered. I think they've been rained on quite a bit. Do you remember the alliums that I harvested last year? They were absolutely enormous, the Shabirtii. Well, they're coming back up. Can you see them just there? Look. So we're going to have lots of alliums again because I didn't move them in the autumn or the winter. So so got them to look forward to. But possibly my favourite area of the allotment right now is underneath the apple tree, where all of the hellebores are blooming and they're really going for it this year. Let's have a look. How incredible is that flower? And look at the size of it. I don't know if it's the wet winter we've had after the wet summer that we had. They just seem so much bigger than they ever have been before. And look at the clump. This is such a big clump now. This plant's been in at least 3 years. I know some of the others have only been in for 1 or 2 years, but this is one of the older ones. And behind it, look, they seem so early. It's not even March yet, but the daffodils are blooming because it's been so mild. Apart from a few frosty nights, the day temperatures are getting so much warmer already. That yellow, it's just so bright. I just can't believe they're in full flower already. And down there we have my early rhubarb. This is Timperley early, covered in a few of my apple tree prunings. And there's loads of forget-me-not down there. I can't wait for that sea of blue to come back. But it looks like we're going to have a good crop. I also need to mulch this, get some nice well-rotted manure on it. This here is one of my palest varieties of the pinks. It's a lovely soft pink with a bit of a freckle going on, with that flash of lime green down the middle. And again, we've got loads of flowers. I mean, look at the size of this plant now. Oh, hello, Robin. You're enjoying them too. Hey. Hey, what do you think? He's so close that I could almost touch him. Hey. It's just moments like that that bring you back to the excitement for spring. You know, I've just been so down in the dumps about this winter. Just makes it all feel okay again. What else do we have down here? Now that is a tulip, but that is wild garlic. Very pungent, fantastic for cooking with. But just be careful if you're looking for it in the wild. Don't pick something you're not sure, because it can look like other things that are poisonous. But that will be flowering as well, not long. But right next to it, oh my gosh, this has got to be the biggest clump of hellebores that I have. And it's that dark burgundy colour. I think this one's called Harvington Dusky, or it's part of that sort of series. It might just be called Double Purple Harvington Dusky or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of all of my hellebores. But there must be 60, 70 flowers on there. And look at that stem. Here, my neighbours have got a compost delivery at the minute. But oh my gosh, I think Mr. Robin's enjoying them too. As for the apple tree, I basically finished pruning it, and we've got loads of buds on it again. Hopefully we have a good year this year. Unlike last year when I think it was rats that took all my apples. It's never happened before. We've got lots of fruit spares, so hopefully lots of fruits coming. Down here is also where I have my autumn fruiting raspberries, which I have finished pruning. If you haven't done so already, now's the time to prune your autumn fruiting raspberries down to the ground. If you have the summer ones, it's a bit different. But I've got another hellebore down here. I think this is the one that's called Anna's Red. And this one I think has been in for about 2 years. So it's not a very big clump on this one. But the size of that flower, it's enormous. The wildlife corner itself, looking a bit messy, of course, as it should. But I've also been hacking back this, which was a huge tree stump covered in ivy. And when I say huge, it's probably 8 foot up, and it's become really difficult to prune, which is why I'm starting to cut it back. And also it's been creating a lot of shade in this corner, which isn't too much of a bad thing, but also this is now a bit of an issue because the tree that it's grown up has died and it's rotten, and at some point that's going to blow over. It gets a lot of wind from this angle. So I think what I might actually do is take it out, which seems a bit of a shame because I know it's where a lot of the birds sometimes nest. But what ideally I'd like to do is to carry on this hedge that comes all the way down here and just make it a bit more seamless. So I'm going to get some bare root hawthorn whips, and then the ivy can grow through it and it'll just be one seamless hedge. Whereas at the minute it's a bit of a mammoth job and needs a bit of a chainsaw to get through all of that to level it out. Yeah, it's a bit of a job. So I might have a bit of a gaping hole for a while. But yes, that project is still happening. We are not done with the hellebores yet. This is another one of my darkest, called Rihanna's Ruby. I think it's been in for at least 3 years now. This one seems to be a lot slower to bulk up, but it has the most amazing foliage. Obviously I've cut all of the old foliage away a few weeks ago, so that when the new foliage comes up, it's not going to get any black spot disease. But yeah, very large, very, very dark, and quite outward facing, whereas a lot of hellebores hang down. These ones aren't too shy, and you do get to see the centres. It's getting a little bit chilly now, so I'm going to start packing up. But this is how the plot is looking at the minute. But I'm so happy with the progress I made on the hedge today. Still so much groundwork to do, but I just don't worry about that. And a little bit more hedge trimming to do. So you see that one in there in the corner, that's a sycamore tree that I have to sort of coppice every year, which is a 2-person job because it involves getting up a very big ladder. I just want to go down here where I know I've got a few more hellebores, and I will do a bit of a hellebore special soon because I've got a few others that I want to plant, and I just think they deserve their own video, don't you? Here they are. Gorgeous, gorgeous. I think I've still got a label for that one. What does it say? This one's called Penny's Pink, and I put this one in last winter. Another one for that marbled foliage that I love. In the shrub border, this one that's growing really nicely. Pittosporums that I put in around about this time last year, wasn't it? And the spirea, look, oh my gosh, just noticed the spirea is starting to bud. Well, the buds are starting to burst, should I say. Well, I think that's it from me today. I've had a really good go at things today and just want to get back into the swing of it and make loads of videos for you, which I'm really excited to do. And especially when the longer days are here. You know, it's already just gone 4 now, still bright. It's still bright till about 5:30 at the moment, and soon the clocks will go forward, which means I can get here after work. And yeah, let me know what your winter's been like. How are things going for you? Always love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.